I will only be sharing a couple of important specs that I think are important to know, because the other ones I truly don't care about. And I'll also be sharing my experience of using an anamorphic lens for the first time ever. So I was basically a complete newbie. So first, let's go over the things that I really liked about the lens. As you've seen in the beginning of this video, this footage shot with this lens just looks simply amazing. In combination with the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II and my newly acquired color grading skills, I think it looked pretty great. Let me know in the comments down below if you like these cinematic sequences. And one of the reasons why I really like this footage is because of this extra horizontal space. So this lens is a 35mm lens, but because it's anamorphic, you actually have a wider field of view that comes down at the width of a 22mm lens. And that's pretty amazing. So you get the same vertical resolution, but the horizontal resolution is much wider. And why I think this is so great is because I'm a firm believer that horizontal photos and videos look way better in comparison to vertical photos and videos. And I am loud about this, and I will be loud about this in the future. I even put it in my Instagram bio. Honestly, I don't want this lens to leave my camera body anymore. I really want to shoot everything with this lens, even my photos. I think that will be pretty cool to experiment with in the future because I haven't done that yet. A great spec that I think to know is that this lens is super tiny and it only weighs like 400 grams. That's basically nothing. It only weighs a little bit more than my tiny prime lenses from Panasonic. So that's pretty impressive. There are a couple of things that you have to keep in mind though when wanting to buy this lens, and that's the fact that because this lens is so tiny, the filter thread size is also really tiny. It's only 58mm, and while you may think that this is great, the best thing that you could do as a filmmaker when buying filters is to buy the largest possible option as a filter, like the filter thread size. So in my instance, I bought 82mm filters because it's way cheaper to buy step-up rings to fit them on smaller lenses as well, compared to buying new filters for every single lens with another filter thread size. So that's what I had to do with this lens, and I had to get a step-up ring from 58mm all the way to 82mm. Something that I wasn't familiar with and I really didn't know about this is the fact that when shooting with an anamorphic lens, you actually can't use IBIS. I think it has something to do with a wider field of view and the fact that it creates more distortion or something like that. So I did notice quite some wobble in my first test footage. And you might have seen this in my first two cinematic sequences as well, but I tried to reduce it to the most usable footage that I had. And something else that I didn't know is the fact that my Lumix S5 Mark II has stabilization for anamorphic lenses. Bruh, why didn't I do my research better? For real. That was just pretty stupid. I'm not really sure if it really reduced it that much. I still have to test that further, but yeah, most of the footage was pretty usable. This lens has a squeeze factor of 1.6, and for some reason it looks like it's a pretty odd squeeze factor because the Lumix S5 Mark II also has a de-squeeze option, so you actually see what you'll get shot with the lens already in the monitor, because not all cameras have this. But the frustrating part is that the 1.6 squeeze factor seems like an odd one, because on this camera I could only shoot between 1.33, I think, 1.5, 1.8, and a 2x squeeze factor. That sucks quite a bit, but in my instance for the de-squeezing, I'm using the 1.5 squeeze factor, and for the stabilization I'm using that one as well. I will also be experimenting with the 1.8 anamorphic stabilization on this camera. Something else that I actually did know is the fact that these lenses are manual focus only, and I honestly don't really mind that. I think that it's a really good skill to have to like really dial in your manual focus skills. I didn't get a wireless focus thingy yet. I might be in the future, but for now it's not really necessary. But if you want to use this lens to film yourself without someone else operating it, and you're going to be filming yourself from a greater distance, keep in mind though that you will have to adjust your lens quite a few times probably before you get the right focus, or you would have to shoot at a higher t-stop, like let's say T10, then it wouldn't really matter that much. So the same issue that I was having on the camera, like with the 1.6 squeeze factor, I was also having the same issue in Davinci Resolve. For some reason, the camera and Davinci Resolve don't really support the 1.6 squeeze factor yet. In Davinci Resolve, we'll have to do quite some manual work to get the footage right. And I want to give a shout out to another YouTuber, Ebola. His content is really great, you should really check him out. And he experimented with getting the right D-squeeze in Davinci Resolve. And for that, you just have to keep the X-axis the same, and you have to unlink the Y-axis, and then you have to put 0.635. and then you'll get the right D-squeeze. But when wanting to use your anamorphic clips for vertical content, I mean, of course you're going to post horizontal videos, but just, yeah, vertical for social media, for your phone, because vertical videos suck. Then it's a whole different ballgame, because I had to do some calculations to get it right. So I divided the 1000 through 635, and the result was 1.57. And for the vertical/horizontal videos, you should take 1780 for the X-axis, so your video fills the vertical frame of your video, of course. And with this number in mind, then I divided the X-axis 1780 through 1.57, and this comes down to 1130. So in this instance, you have to unlink the Y-axis again, and you have to put 1130 over there. And that's at least what I think, and it looks good to me, the right D-squeeze factor for vertical horizontal videos. So let's talk about a couple of things that I actually didn't like about this lens. And that's the fact that the minimum focusing distance is only 0.9 meters. So as you may see, I can get pretty close with this lens, and that's where diopters come in. And with these, you can get closer to your subject. I got the +1, +2, +4, and +10. And these are really cheap. I got these for like 30 or 40 euros, so you don't have to worry about the price too much. But it's quite an extra hassle, so I wish they could improve on this. Another tiny complaint is the fact that this lens only stops down to T2.9. I would have loved if this lens could have stopped down to T2, because that would have been better for low light, of course. And I really like to shoot during blue hour and sunset. And even though this camera is great at low light, it's just a benefit to have, you know. Sirui, is it how you say it? Like Sirui? Sirui? Like everyone's pronouncing the name differently. They really need to come down with other variants of this lens as well. So they probably also need to come with 50mm and a 70 or a 75mm, because I would definitely get one of those in my kit as well. I love a 35mm. I've really come to love it. I think it's actually one of my favorite focal lengths right now, but I really feel like it's a bit limiting sometimes, especially for videography, and when you want to get different scenes, different perspectives, then I feel like a 50 or a 75 is really necessary. I really love this lens. It probably won't leave my camera anymore for the foreseeable future until they come out with a 50 or a 75mm. And even though I had tiny complaints, it's a great lens, and I would definitely recommend it to everyone. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, because I'm posting a lot of short content about this lens, for example, over there. I also post a lot of photos, and everything is, of course, horizontal. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this one as well.